Hello, everyone. I am Kathleen Riley, and for this beautiful sound sharing, this afternoon I am joined by my dear friend Robert Coxon, who is an amazing, amazing composer, a beautiful musician, and just has created so much music that has brought healing and harmony to the world. And so I'm so honored to be joined by him today, so that we too can share this out for the world on World Sound Healing Day. So Robert, let's see, where are we going to start with our sound sharing? Let's begin.
Start by saying I'm honored to be here.
Yes, well,
yeah, it feels
it's such
good.
a joy, doesn't it? And I'm just, it's amazing that out of, again, the intention and the power of Jonathan Goldman's heart,
right,
came this beautiful event 20 years ago. And then that it just keeps growing and growing. And we keep sharing more and more. Yeah,
it is beautiful. I remember meeting Jonathan probably 20 years ago at New Age Music conference, and it was amazing.
Yes.
And we've all come so far from there.
Haven't we? And we're really here. This is our time for Mother Earth, our world, and humanity to really bring our sounds here.
Yeah, and realizing as an artist, why am I here? What's my mission? What's my intent when I write that music?
Yes, that come from makes all the difference.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I remember years and years ago when I had my very first, they weren't even CDs then, they were cassettes. The first one, Crystal Silence, and Crystal Silence 1, 2, and 3. And they were selling extremely well. And so many of the other composers of that type of music were asking me, how come your albums sell so well? And I said, because I didn't write them to make the money. I wrote them to help people.
Yes.
And then everything falls into place, because when you're basically on your mission, you're provided for in whatever way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I feel that as we begin our weaving of the tapestry of dialogue and sound together, let's share something beautiful, one of your beautiful compositions with our listeners today. So what would you like to begin with?
Well, I don't know. How about from the album, The Infinite Essence of Life?
Yes.
The very first piece on there is called Essence of Cryon. And that wasn't the original title of it. Actually, that piece was written a few years before I put that album together. And it was written for the French publisher for Lee Carroll Cryon books. And they were putting out a book of channels from all sorts of famous people from all over the world, and they wanted to include a piece of music with it. So they asked me to write that, and it was all about music for a new humanity. And this was before we were all actually talking about we need to go into this transformation into the new human.
Yes.
And this is what this piece was. Yeah.
Well, here we are. And what a most divine day for us to be sharing this with our world.
Yes, definitely.
So let's start. Okay, audience.
Let's listen to this and connect.
Yes. Well, that's just so beautiful, and it's a touching way, and the bringing in the harmonic resonance. So, and what you said earlier really resonates with me very deeply about the come from and the intention being purely to share and to provide joy and healing and harmony. And it's not about what am I going to get out of this, because in that way of sharing we get so much more, for it keeps
Sure.
coming back to us.
Yeah,
And this is the way forward, I believe, and as we heal our world and one another.
definitely.
It's the
Yeah.
co-creation.
Sure,
Yes.
and therefore it's about not what am I going to get out of it, but what are we all going to become with it?
Yes, it's the being and becoming of all, and
Definitely.
the that we are all one.
Hmm.
And
When this piece of music we just listened to, um, what I feel I was wanting to do when I wrote it was to um, create a music that when people listen to it, it helps them get in touch with their sacred self within. And when you really get in touch with your sacred self, you start realizing that you're so much more than who you think you are, and you're so much more powerful, and you you realize that you can do so much and really accomplish your mission, whatever it is here.
yes, and one of the things I love about your compositions and a lot of the intent behind them is how many thousands of people now you have written pieces for. And I'd love to share with our audience today this very special gift that you are bringing, and your reason for even beginning this and how it began. So let's chat a little bit about that.
I presume you're talking about the music that I channel through for people, specifically for people, where they send me their photo
Yes.
and I connect, look at that photo, and connect with them at a soul level. And I'm guided to bring through the music that will help them. And they don't have to tell me what they need the music for. It's written all over their face,
Yeah.
so to speak. And the music comes through, and it that's the whole purpose, to help them in whatever way. It could be for their health, it could be for their mission in life, it could be for their finding love in their life, anything. And I do that on stage to show people what it is. And I think one of the most striking moments for me was when I was in Salzburg, Austria, of course, Mozart's place, and that was striking enough as it was. But I brought someone up on stage. There was probably 1,500 people at this event. And I brought someone I'd never met in my life up on stage to channel their music for in front of everyone else. And I thought this person was either Austrian or Bavarian. They looked that. And the music's coming through very Middle Eastern. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, my mind starts working, say, oh, should I stop now? And then while I'm ahead. But then I finished, I went through with the piece and that. And then I found out she was from Turkey. So that explains a bit of it. But then I found out she was quite a famous singer, and I've actually toured with her. And I was in Turkey doing an event with her a few years later after we'd met, and I did this music, and she told the audience that the music I brought through really helped her with her career, because her grandfather, when he was alive, he was a composer. And at the point I channeled for her, she was starting to compose. And she told me that the pieces that were coming through, the music that was coming through, the melodies were her grandfather's compositions.
Oh, how beautiful. Wow.
And what this did for her, it showed her that her grandfather, although he was not physically alive, was still there to help her and guide her as a composer.
Yes. And that's such a beautiful gift of, healing and that connection for her. And of
Exactly.
course the inspiration.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just gorgeous. Are we going to share something that you created for one of these women, well, let's do a piece of something that
Yeah,
speaks to
I
us.
do it for men and women or
Well,
children
yes,
or
children,
I've actually,
people. I should say
I,
people, but she was coming in my heart. So
yeah, I even did it for someone's birds. She had two birds and she wanted music for the birds.
okay, yeah,
But no, why don't we play something off of an album called Goddess, the Power of Woman?
yes, okay,
And this person sent me her photo and I channeled her music for her. And she happens to be, she's a world famous painter, paintings. And so I called it The Artist. But this is a piano, when I'm doing the pieces for the soul masterpieces, they're called. And I'm doing it on piano, of course.
right,
So let's listen to this for a minute.
yes, let's enjoy. This is just such a delight, and I can feel as we are sharing these, I can feel them touching not just you and I, because I feel these very deeply, but the power of now being able to use the online platforms and how many people we are touching
Exactly.
with this sound.
Exactly.
It's such a gift, such a beautiful
Mm.
gift of the advances of technology and how we can use them this way.
Yeah. And the thing, we were talking about this before we even started recording today, talking about when I mentioned this piece to you, that we have to realize that music does not have to be what slow meditative, or with the birds, or the water flowing or something. It doesn't have to be slow. It can be fast. It can be, and it's still healing. It's still powerful music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a good example of that. That it's something more faster and powerful.
Yes, and there are so many different ways people meditate, people heal, and of course we are all unique, and even at
Yeah,
different times of the day, I'm not always drawn to listen to the same type of music.
exactly.
But the beauty is for people to begin to learn a few
Yeah.
important pieces here are that the come from is really what's creating this magical energy of healing, and
Hmm.
that come from, or that intention, can be
Yeah,
through so many different sounds. And one of the things
definitely.
I believe, it's a mantra of mine, is that every person on this planet, along with the sentient being, has a seat at the table of sound.
Of
And
course.
it's a universal table, right? So we all make sound,
Yeah,
even spoken word. And spoken word
yeah.
is also affected through the modulation and the tonality by
Hmm.
the intention.
Yeah.
So it's an invitation for all who are listening and watching with us today that you too have the ability to create this through sound.
Yes, and one of the things I tell a lot of young composers is, don't think that it's the notes that is where the power is, because it's the power is really beyond the notes, behind the notes. It's all that intent.
Right. It's what I call in the spaces in between.
Sure. And you can see that, you as a classical performer, pianist, you can see that you can play a classical piece of music, a Beethoven or Mozart or whatever, so many different ways. And the most powerful ones are the ones that have that spiritual inner intent coming out. They're playing through their heart. It's exactly the same notes, but it doesn't feel the same.
Well, and this is that power of the heart. For our
Exactly.
hearts are affected. They are giving the signal out, which is an electromagnetic field of our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions.
Right.
The beautiful, powerful flow of this heart generated intention is that this travels up to our brain, to many different centers.
Yeah.
And within several centers in the brain, especially our thalamus, which activates all of the sensory input and output, this is how, when you and I were just speaking about the intention, it's in the space between the notes, or it's in between. It's that there's a magical place for me, at least when I'm playing, that I get the signal, the intent comes through in what I call the inner ear, or the third ear, and there's a place of a resonance with a frequency, not necessarily everybody in the actual sound spectrum that's going to come out of my piano, but there's a vibration that aligns, and
Yeah.
then it's channeled through when there's everything is in alignment and in flow and I'm in tune, so to speak, it comes out through my fingertips onto the keyboard. There's no way that I'm in my thinking brain thinking, I have to hit this note this way. So when we allow ourselves to really listen deeply within and to let the heart lead the way,
Yeah.
the sound and how we communicate with one another in
Yeah.
our world has a miraculous shift in it. It's
Oh
transformative.
yeah. Yeah. And that's the zone I have to get into, whether I'm scoring a movie or I'm doing those channeled pieces, or, actually, the pieces that are on my CDs, it's the ones that are most powerful are the ones that I cannot say, wow, I wrote that. They're the ones that come through when I let them come through.
Yes.
They're the most powerful ones.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we have to share another one. So, what are we having everyone listen to next?
I don't know.
Okay.
Why don't we talk? We're talking about music, and most people think Robert writes these beautiful melodies and this and that. But I have a CD that we did research project on. Probably one of the first. I think it was one of the first research projects that I ever had done, a scientific research project on a piece called. It's an album called Mental Clarity.
Yes.
And I had first developed this sound for the Silva method of mind control. And then, because of what it is, I felt I had to do some research on it or it wouldn't sell in the stores. I had to prove that it could do something. Because when you listen to it, it's actually just one long 3 notes, a low A, the octave A, and then the E. So just 3 notes like that. It's not even a major or minor chord, just going along forever and ever and ever. And so we had the research done on it, and then we put it out on a CD. And there were a few returns at the beginning because some people were sending them back saying it's stuck on the first note. There's something wrong. But it's supposed to be that way. And I think it's, until I brought out the sequel to that, it was probably the most powerful album I ever wrote. Just 3 notes, What a
all
way
it
to
could
make
take,
money,
yeah.
just 3 notes, and you write another one, 3 other notes,
Well, it's beautiful because I think for many people, they feel they over try, or they feel they have to be trying, writing something, if you will, playing something.
Yeah.
It's very technical and very involved. And I really believe that there's often more beauty and more power and more healing in
Oh, yes.
some of the beautiful pieces. Even my classical pieces I could go to as favorites are very in that vein. They're not
Yeah.
too full.
It's,
Fewer notes, but they
Yeah,
speak volumes. So yeah,
as a composer, it's easier to write many notes than a few notes.
right. So
Because the less notes there are, the more you have to question, why is that note there?
of course,
Yeah, it has to be
So-
there for a reason.
absolutely.
So we did some research. I hooked up with medical research scientists and a medical research doctor who specialize in retraining the brain. So they had all the equipment to put the electrodes on people's heads, and we had 36 people come in, one at a time. They're just not people that meditated necessarily, just general population people, and hear this sound. And they first did a fingerprint of their brain. Did a reading with their eyes open. Everyone has different levels of alpha and beta and theta, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like a fingerprint of your brain,
Right.
with the eyes open and then with the eyes closed. And then they played this sound, the mental clarity sound, and wanted to find out what it was actually doing. And the amazing thing, we were trying to find a sound that would put people immediately into alpha. We did not find it. We found something more important. Everyone, when they close their eyes to meditate, they start thinking, oh, did I turn the stove off? What's the dog doing? Where are the children? You mental chatter. And this sound helps you to focus on nothing. Just to calm the chatterbox in the brain. And it balances the left and right hemispheres. And it does so many other things, but that were some of the basic things they found with it. And if that's played super, super softly, it's amazing what it does. It has an open fifth, and in music, to have a proper chord, you need 3 notes. Otherwise, it's suggestion of a chord.
Right.
So if you have the 1 and the 5, you really need the 3 in there. That determines whether it's major or minor. And without the 3, you have this open fifth. And the history of Western civilization music in Europe started with the Gregorian chant. Basically, there wasn't harmonies. Right. It was everyone singing the same melody, and they started experimenting. The monks started experimenting with singing the fifth at the same time. Now, maybe this happened by chance, because some people will sing they'll sing the wrong note. They'll sing the fifth instead of the first. It's almost clear. And so they ended up doing parallel harmony.
Yes.
Of these open fifths, Right. The Catholic Church said, you're not allowed to do that. And why? Because by playing the open fifth, you start connecting with your spirit inside. You start connecting with what you want to call God or the universe, or whatever your belief system is. But it helps you to connect with having to go through the church. And the other thing was that they found out by playing the open fifth, they were able to manifest things physically. And I heard this story from a few people, and then, I was thinking, yeah, sure. But I was doing an event in Toronto, and I had the audience, I was leading them through a guided meditation on manifestation, on abundance. And so I played mental clarity. I played this sound for them, which we're going to hear in a minute. And a woman in the audience, after I had them come back, their consciousness into the room and open their eyes, she was crying, and she came up to me and said, I don't know what happened. I was in this sort of dream state, and I was up in the heavens picking all these multicolored flower petals. There were flowers everywhere. And I came back into the room, opened my eyes, and my hands are filled with flower petals. And she said, look, they're on my chair there. So I had them share them with the other people. And I took some home and put them in a book, keep them flat. I opened them up 2 years later. The colors were still the same. They hadn't dried out. And this woman learned something, that manifestation does not have to be a 12-step program, that it could be just, you can connect and create your life. And then I really realized, wow, this album is powerful. It's powerful. And what it does, it helps people open to their creativity. I know, and I've heard from a lot of people that are writing their thesis, their doctorate thesis, or writing a book, or doing anything very brainstorming creative. And they just put that on extremely softly in the background. So you almost don't know it's there.
Sure.
And it puts you in that state where you're totally focused on what you're doing.
Well, let's bring our world with us into this beautiful meditative state of mental clarity. Yes, please enjoy. that's just for me personally, that piece does really quiet for
Hmm.
sure. There's a very a point of stillness I experienced
Yeah.
just now. And when we get into those still points, which I do often, but that's where, yes, it isn't, it's a gateway, isn't it? It's a gateway for
Oh, yeah, it's definitely
these
gateway.
levels of higher consciousness and creativity. And it gets any brain chatter out of the way, which kind of clutters the field. So
It's a
I
gate.
really appreciate this. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a gateway into infinity and infinite possibilities.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you have done some work with our dear friend, John Stewart Reed. And
Oh, what an amazing
John
person.
is such an amazing, amazing soul.
Yeah,
Just to our audience, I'm sure they all know him, but John Stewart Reed is known for his work with the Cymoscope. And
yeah.
Robert, I think you can share a story about the next piece we're going to share that was used for an experiment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I met John because was scoring the movie The One Field, the
Yes.
2 hour documentary, and we decided to do an experiment after with one of the pieces of music that was in there called "Be You Be Love," and got some amazing results. But then he contacted me. He wanted to do an experiment with human red blood cells, and could I send him some music? So I sent him a few pieces of music, and he chose a piece called Torisane, which is a piece that I wrote the music, and my partner Lily created the words, brought through the words, and they're actually light language. So it's not in English, French, or Spanish or whatever. It's sort of a universal language. And he measured how many blood cells were in a milliliter of blood, red blood cells, and that were alive, that were still alive. It was an old sample. So there were 21,000 cells within a milliliter. Then he played the music for the blood cells in a loop for 20 minutes. Then he measured it again, and somehow blood cells came back from the dead. They became
Yes.
alive
Yes, they did.
because when he counted, there was not 21,000, there were 71,000 cells alive.
Yeah.
And this music, it's a project that Lily and I have called Voices of the Elohim. And I write the music, she does the words, and we do events throughout the world and and online, etc. And so this I had a recording of 550 people singing it, and that's what we used on here. And if this can do that to red blood cells in a test tube, imagine what it can do with us these days. How it can help our lungs, how it can help our whole body,
And
do
how
something like that.
it just helps us as a whole, as the whole totality of humanity together.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
these are the type of things that help us to realize we're all one.
We
We
are.
all have red blood cells. But when we connected at the higher level,
Mm.
which the mental clarity was doing,
Yes.
we're all connected. We're all connected
Abs-
with this thing called love. And actually, maybe we could play this song,
mhm.
and we could put the words up, and they're so easy. It keeps repeating the words. So,
Absolutely. Yes,
and,
we'll share this with the audience, and
yeah,
so we can actually all join in together in singing.
exactly. And if they really love it, if they go to my website, there's actually a video there. There's of that song, so they
Yes.
can listen to it there and really
Wonderful.
charge up their bodies.
All right. So we're going to be those hundreds of thousands of voices together right
Exactly.
now. Great.
To
Wow. We certainly just amplified the healing sounds on the
Yeah.
planet right now. I know we did. And it's been such a joy
You know,
sharing these pieces with our world. Definitely.
yeah, and I thank you, Kathleen, for doing this. This is great what you're doing.
Well, I love this co-creation with a platform where you get to not only just share your music, but share the story and the journey with it,
Yeah.
because it gives so much more meaning,
Hmm.
and bringing people back to learning how to listen more deeply, more
Right,
attentively.
right.
And I know that I think we all tend to tune in to something that we have a curiosity about, but also a familiarity with. And
Right.
so I felt it was really important today for you to be sharing some of the story behind the music,
Yeah.
so that then it would land differently for all who are listening.
Right, right. And a flash just came into my head that maybe we could end the program with a piece. We hadn't even talked about this one.
Okay, let's do it.
It has to do with love because Monday is Valentine's Day.
And this is our World Sound Healing Day. That's right.
Yeah,
This is the day we're doing it. Yeah.
and it's all about love. You know, there was a famous scientist, Marcel Vogel. He had been head of research at IBM, and then when he retired, they donated this gigantic laboratory to him. He did all sorts of other experiments, and a lot of people knew him for his crystals and that. But I knew him well. I'd done research with him, and he always said that love is the glue that holds the universe together. And when I was scoring the movie The One Field, as I'm watching it and, and creating various new pieces of music, something kept coming in my head. This piece of music that I'd already created for the Voices of the Elohim called Be You, Be Love. This should fit in the movie, because the movie is all about the scientists and the spiritual people meeting in the quantum field and then realizing, oh, we're all doing the same thing and we're all the same,
Yes.
So I felt, and I actually put it in various versions, just piano version of it, or piano and strings, or 1,000 people singing it, or at the end of the movie, the sign off theme is Be You, Be Love, but it's a solo voice singing it, with the orchestra in the background. We could just end it with that and let the people feel that love for themselves, first of all, and then realizing that they can share that with everyone because they do love themselves.
We're sharing it with humanity, with all sentient beings, and with our earth, with our world. We're here to be one together.
Yeah. And just being is so important.
Yes.
If you are, when we say being, just be who you are, and then everything falls into place beautifully. Be that love.
So please
Thank
enjoy.
you. Thank you.